back to Selena's table and our little Aussie homestead. I'm Selena. I have just popped, turn that off now. I've just done some chicken strips. These are just those commercial ones that you buy in the air fryer, because today what I'm doing is I'm putting together our week's worth of grab and go lunches in the fridge. I did another video similar to this recently and you may have seen that. So I thought I was just going to keep going, show you what I do every week when it comes to our grab and go lunches. So on today's menu we do have sushi. So I have some sushi things out and these are to go in the sushi. So I've cooked them and now I'm just going to let them come down to room temperature. And we will pop the rice on in the Instant Pot so that we can move on with some other things. So got my Instant Pot. Okay, to get started on our sushi rice, I have some arborio rice. You can buy specific sushi rice. I just use any short grain or risotto rice. If you have a rice cooker, you can also do your rice in that, or you can do it on the stove top. I'm doing it in the Instant Pot so I don't have to think about it. I've got a few things to make today. So I'm going to do 2 extra large cups of rice. And then 3 cups of water. There we go. I'm going to pop that. I'm going to put that on the Instant Pot on the rice setting. Otherwise you could do absorption method on the stove top where you bring it to the boil and then you would turn it off and let it sit with the lid on for 10 minutes. But I'm going to do it in the Instant Pot to make life super easy. Now that our rice is on, I do have my oven on. I have some bread that I have proving over here. We are also going to make, we are also making a ham roll. So I've pre-made one of my white sandwich loaf recipes and I've cut it into like hot dog logs today. So that's proving, that's almost ready to go into the oven. It's on. So to keep going with our sushi, I have some sushi seaweed. I have my chicken. I'm going to put some carrot in this and I'm also going to make a Kewpie style, Japanese style mayonnaise. So before I do that though, I want to get the sugar vinegar mixture made that you put on the rice that gives it that real sushi flavor. So in a saucepan, I'm going to put a cup of sugar, and a cup of rice wine vinegar. You can also buy, I know I've seen it in the shop, the sushi vinegar pre-made. I like to make mine. If you don't have rice wine vinegar, I've also done this with white wine vinegar and regular vinegar where you mix half and half, and that works as well. So just a little tip there. I'm just going to put this on the stove, bring it up to almost a boil. I don't want to actually boil it. I would like the sugar to be completely dissolved and we're going to then let that cool. Okay. Vinegar is on, rice is on, bread is proving, the chicken strips are cooked. We're also going to be making lamingtons today. So we're going to make some lamingtons as well to go with our lunches that are grab and go. Whenever I do the grab and go lunches, I like to have a couple of savoury options and a couple of sweet options because you just never know what you're going to feel like taking for lunch, right? So I'm going to use one of the cake mixes that we put together. You can use any cake mix or you can make a cake from scratch. This is just a plain white vanilla cake. And into my bowl, I'll show you what I'm going to do. I have a sliced tin here and I have lined it with paper, baking paper. In my bowl, I have 2 eggs. If you remember when we made this vanilla cake, we didn't put any vanilla in it. We just labeled it vanilla cake. So I'm going to add to my 2 eggs a tablespoon of vanilla essence, half a cup of flavourless oil. I've got a sunflower oil today. You could also use melted butter. And 1 3/4 of a cup of water. So that's 3/4, it's not quite full. In there. Going to give that a good whisk together. And I have noticed that my vinegar over here has come up to a boil, so I'm just going to have a quick look. Yes, that's dissolved. That's dissolved. I've turned the heat off on that. So it's just going to sit there now. And that's for the sushi, remember? Now that we have those ingredients well incorporated, it is as simple as putting in our mix. Now, if you're using a commercial cake mix, by all means follow the recipe on that, because they are often different. But if you're using one of our pre-made cake mixes, this is how you put it together. Now, I keep these little bags for when I've run out, and I can remake another batch. Just going to give that a quick mix together. It is a cake, we want to get the lumps out of it. You can use electric hand beaters if you would prefer. You can even use your stand mixer. I find with these cake mixes, they're just so simple to throw together that a whisk is enough. As that now. Straight in to our pan. And that is going straight into the oven. Oven set to 180 degrees Celsius. I'm going to just drop that down to 170 because I have a hot oven, and I'm going to pop this in for about 20 minutes, but I will keep an eye on it because when I made these cake mixes up, they were designed for like the bigger, the deeper round or the deeper square cake tin. Because this is a shallow tin, it might not quite take that long, so I will keep an eye on it, but 20 minutes is a good rough gauge. So I'll pop that in the oven now. Another dish we're going to make this morning is some potato salad. This goes really well as a grab and go side item. So what I've got here is a bunch of potatoes. I did pick some up for a great price the other day. Even though we're growing potatoes, I still buy them if I find them for a good price because they do last a long time. I keep mine in the fridge. And when they start to sprout, I can either pop them in my garden and try and grow from them, or, which I think I've shown you in some of my garden videos, or I will can some up. And I've actually got a big bag here, a 5 kilo bag, and I have noticed some of them are starting to sprout already, which is usually why you get them for a good price, because they're getting near that point in their life. So I'm actually in the next couple of days going to pressure can a bunch of potatoes pre-cut for even simpler potato salad. I did this last year. I did a heap of canning of just bought potatoes into cubes. They made making a quick and easy potato salad, especially during summer when we're having barbecues. and things like that. It made it really quick, really easy to throw on together because the potatoes are pre-cooked. All you had to do was drain them. So I will be doing that this week as well. But today I don't have any canned potatoes left. I've used them all. So today I'm just going to peel a few and get them boiling. Okay, I have my potatoes, they're peeled. I'm just going to chop them up, pop them in the pot. Just that big. Into the pot. These don't take too long to cook because they are pre-cut. Need to pop some water in here. Yes, my skins are still in the base of my sink, but that's because I have some carrots over here that I need to peel as well, and I'm just going to put all the mess in the sink and then pop it into one of the old potato bags to take out to the compost. So just cover it with water. Going to add a teaspoon of salt. That's Celtic salt. You can use any salt. And put it on the stove. Okay, and you can see that's our vinegar mixture, and it's cooling down. As you can see, the rice came to the end of its cycle. So I've just released the pressure on that now. Once that little toggle pops down and the lid is safe to remove, I'll take that rice out and I'll pop it in a plastic container just to cool it down as quickly as I can. While that's happening behind me, cake is still cooking in the oven. It looks good. Potatoes are on. They're started. Rice vinegar over there is ready to be used. So we are going to move on to the rest of the potato salad dressing. So in a large bowl, because I'm just going to make this straight into the bowl, you want some mayonnaise. So that's about half a cup of mayonnaise. And about the same of either sour cream or yogurt, Greek yogurt if you're using yogurt. So about a half a cup of Greek yogurt. To that I've got some dill from the garden and some chives that I just went out and picked before, along with some salad ingredients to go in our ham rolls. You could also fry up some bacon and put some bacon bits in this, that's really nice. And boiled eggs are really nice as well if you want to add those to your potato salad. I'm just going to do a simple herb one today. Herbs in. Salt and pepper. About a teaspoon of salt. And just a sprinkle of pepper. Give that a good stir. Now, you can add so many things to potato salad in addition to your bacon or your egg. You can add mustard, you can add gherkins, so many different things. Today's potato salad is just simply going to be this. Now that's ready for the potatoes. That's ready for the potatoes, so I'm just going to set that aside and move on to checking that rice. So my rice is lovely and cooked in there. What we want to do is we want to cool this down so that we can then add our vinegar mixture. So I've just got a plastic container here. I'm just going to scoop it out. And the reason I'm using a container instead of just straight into this bowl is because I want it to cool down, and this bowl's not going to cool down quickly. I also don't want to just put it on a plate because the vinegar mixture could run away from me. So I want to contain it. It's lovely and sticky, the way sushi rice should be. Alright, I'm going to set that aside as well. I want that to cool down a bit before I go and add any of my vinegar to it. I won't put it next to my potato salad because it'll heat that up. What I do want to do is make a little mayonnaise to go with our sushi. So I've got a small bowl here. I've just got some mayonnaise here. Of course, buy Kewpie mayonnaise if that's what you want to do. We didn't have any. I'm not going back to the shop today, so I'll just make something that's similar. So in my little bowl, I'm just going to add some mayonnaise. However much you think you might need. That's probably half a cup. A couple of tablespoons of the rice wine vinegar. 2 of those. Dijon mustard would be perfect. I don't have any, but I do have American mustard, so I'm just going to add about a teaspoon of that. And a little bit of sugar. So about 2 teaspoons, maybe 3 teaspoons of sugar. Just going to give that a mix. It's going to be our mayonnaise that we will put with our sushi inside of it. Okay, set that over there. While all of our things are either cooking or cooling, we might get on to peeling some carrots. So I went out into the garden this morning and I found some rainbow carrots. So we're going to use those today because that's a bit fun. By the time I finish peeling these, that cake should be ready to come out of that. So I'm just going to peel straight into my potatoes. Skins. I have pre-washed all of these. These are white ones. So you can do whatever you like when it comes to the presentation for the sushi. You can cut it into little pieces, you could grate it. I'm just going to do some peelings today because it keeps it nice and thin, and hopefully there's enough here then to go on our ham salad rolls as well. If not, we'll just grate some more carrot. And this should look really pretty with all the different colours in the sushi. Alright, I've got a bowl of carrot peelings here, ready to get turned into sushi. I have noticed that my potatoes have started to boil, so I'm going to keep an eye on those. The cake is almost done, so what we're going to do is get this sushi ready to go, and then we'll pull that cake out and then just go on with the sushi. So I want to show you what we do next. So here we have our carrot peelings are done. We've got our chicken fingers, they are cold now. And we have our rice, and we also have that mayonnaise that we made. So we're going to set that over there. To our rice now, it isn't cold. It has cooled slightly though. We're just going to fluff it like this, and we're going to add that vinegar sugar water that we made. No, there wasn't water in it, was there? It was just vinegar and sugar. And now we just want to mix that so that all the rice has some of that vinegar syrup on it. This is what gives sushi that delicious sushi flavour, in addition to obviously the seaweed, but this is the rice. This is what makes the rice. We want that we want that syrup to get absorbed by the rice. Okay, I have to set that aside. We're just going to check on that cake. I'm pretty sure it is done. Cake's not ready, but the bread rolls are ready to go in the oven. So I'm going to pop them in. They have fluffed up nicely. And if you haven't already seen our video on how to make this bread, I will link it for you. It's the most easy bread. I did this in the bread machine this morning and just on a dough setting. So once the dough was ready to then be worked, I took it out, I rolled it into this odd shape, and I have now just covered it and let it rest until it had doubled in size. So that's now ready for the oven. So in they go. That'll take about 20 minutes. I want to check the potatoes that are boiling. No, they're not ready either. Okay. I do want those things to be ready before we actually start rolling our sushi, because you can get a little bit dirty on your hands when you're doing it, and I don't want to be distracted by, oh no, I forgot about the cake or the bread. So I'm just going to clean up my mess. I'm putting all the peelings and carrot bits and pieces back into this old potato bag, and I'll clean the sink. This isn't going in the bin, this is just so that I can carry it out to the compost in the garden. It won't go to waste. So in the amount of time, steam bath, the amount of time it took for me to clean up those vegetable scraps, our potatoes have come to a boil. They are tender but not falling apart. We don't want them falling apart, otherwise it ends up being a mash. You want your knife to be able to go through, but without them just becoming a mashed mess. So they're going to sit here and they're going to steam themselves dry, and I want them cold before I add them to the mayonnaise mixture that we have over there. Alright, cake is good. Nice and clean when I poke it with a skewer. I'm going to pull this out of this tin straight away and pop it onto a cooling rack, and I'll show you. So another one of those things, we need it to be nice and cold. Before we move on to the rest of this lamington, what I'm actually going to do is tip it on its roof. I did that for a couple of reasons. One of them is actually to square it up a bit. I want it to be a little bit less of a dome, but I don't want to waste the cake and throw it out. So we will sit that there. It's going to rest, it's going to cool, and we can now go over there and start our sushi. Okay. Cake's cooling, potatoes are cooling. I've double checked on them. My bread rolls look good. They're getting really big actually. And I want to show you that our rice has absorbed most of that rice vinegar syrup. So we are good to start rolling out our sushi. And if you want, you could give it a little taste just to check that you're happy with it before. Perfect balance. Delicious. Okay? You will need a sushi rolling mat to make sushi. Mine's a little worse for wear. I need to get myself another one, but I can still use this. You will need seaweed, nori wraps. Okay? And you'll notice when you open one side is a little bit shinier than the other side. You want that shinier side to be the outside, so that will lay flat on your sushi mat. The next thing you're going to want is, you'll need some water, and I have a little pastry brush here as well. Okay, we've got all of our bits and pieces lined up here, ready to go. As you can see, and what we're going to do is put our nori wrap on our mat, get a spoonful of rice, and you want to press and push at the same time, and you want to leave a gap of about 1 inch or 2 centimeters at the further end to your body, and fill in up to that point well and evenly with rice. Okay, I like to square off my edges because sushi is a presentation dish. You want it to look as nice and as tidy as you can make it. You don't want too thick of a rice, so my rice here is probably 1/2 centimeter thick. Okay, if you have extra, pop it back for the next one. Okay. All right, now on here, we want to lay our fillings. So I'm going to put just 1 layer of our carrots. This, you want to lie it in a line if you can. My carrots are going crazy. Okay, your chicken. Tuna also works really well. And if you have a gap here, which I think you can see there, so what I'm going to do is just cut a piece to fit. Okay? You want to get a drizzle of your mayonnaise. Of course, your fillings are optional. Cucumbers are beautiful. Avocado is nice. If you do make avocado in advance, like I'm doing today, where these will sit in the fridge for a couple of days, just realize avocado will go brown. Okay, and then you want to use your mat and you want to lift, hold your chicken in place there. And you want to tuck using your mat, pull towards you and press so that it's nice and firm. Roll again, nice and firm, and then you want to wet this little edge. You can use your finger too, you don't have to use a brush. I usually do use my finger. And then you want to roll it up and use your mat to make sure it's a nice firm roll, just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to place this whole roll just on a large platter and to the side while I continue rolling the rest of it. I'm actually going to turn my mat around so that I have that tight section closer to me, be a bit easier to manage. And we're just going to continue until all of our sushi is rolled. basically until you run out of rice. Going with this sushi rolling, and then we'll move on to the next thing. Bread rolls are done. Need to let them cool. The next recipe we're going to do are apple and plum turnovers. The reason I'm using plum as well as apple is because I only have one can left of our home canned apples, but I did have a plum can. Apples and plums go nicely together. So what I've done is I've just taken out some puff pastry out of the freezer. That's just sitting there to defrost. I'm going to open these cans and I'm just going to drain them into this bowl. I don't want to lose the syrup yet because I am going to use it. And I'm going to set all this aside while we wait for that puff pastry to be pliable and while the fruit drains. I'm just going to set them all aside and we will finish off our potato salad. So here, that's the dressing from earlier. I've been draining this whole time. I'm just going to add them. This is the potato salad that we eat this so much through summer, especially it's one of our favorite Christmas sides. It's so easy and affordable to make, tastes delicious, and it does sit in the fridge nicely. It doesn't go bad within the week. We always eat it long before it could go bad anyway. Okay, you want to give that a taste just to check that it's got enough salt. Really? Perfect. The herbs are coming through really nicely. It's beautiful. All right, so what I do is I do package all of these lunches up into individual servings. I find that when I package them up individually, it's much easier for the whole grab and go thing to happen. And also, a whole bowl of potato salad doesn't just go missing somehow. Someone doesn't just eat it. So they can have their portion sizes and then it will last. So what I'm gonna do is pop this in the fridge. The sushi's in the fridge still in whole logs. This is going into the fridge. I'm going to put that cake in the freezer because I want to work on that in a minute and it's not quite cold enough to work with. The bread rolls are cooling over there on the cooling rack and the oven is on, ready for these apple turnover things. So we'll just keep progressing. This is going to go in the fridge now. Okay, we're going to move on to these apple plum turnovers. They will be, so they will have whipped cream in them as well, but that doesn't happen until they are well and truly cold. So let's get them cooked. So I'll show you what we're going to do. This is just pre-made puff pastry that's rolled, pre-rolled. And what I'm going to do to make my life super simple is I'm cutting them into 4, and then I'm going to cut each one of those in half on the diagonal. Okay. And then take half straight onto your baking sheet that's got puff paper on it still. And I am reusing this paper from when I did the bread rolls. I just flipped it over in case any sesame seeds were left behind. Before I keep going, before I fill this whole tray up, I do want to make these just to make sure I have enough, because I don't want to be cutting pastry if I'm not going to be able to use it for this purpose. Okay. So I want to try and get at least a piece of each of the fruits. And it doesn't look like much fruit, but it ends up being the perfect amount for these little pies. Okay, and then a bit of apple. You don't want to overfill them because otherwise your little tops, the top of the pastry it won't cover it. I'm just going to put that there to hold it down. Get some apple on each of these. We don't want them bursting in the oven either. So we canned this fruit back in January, I think it was. But you can use tinned fruit as well, just straight out of a can. And this is what, you'll see what we wanted that for in a minute. So you just want to press and pull away from you. Like that. Because this pastry is now really soft, because it has defrosted, it's harder to work with. But there you go. Okay, I'm just going to put my fork through the center so that we hopefully get spillage out of the top and not through the seam. Then what we want to do, this is what we've reserved our juice for. Reserved our juice because it's a sugar syrup for the tops and the sides. I'm going to pop this one in the oven while I work on the tops of those. So this is our vanilla cake, and I'm going to cut it into 3 this way. Okay, like that. And then each of these we want to cut as well. So I'm just going to move these out of the way. So I'm going to cut in half first and then into 3 again. We want sort of square as best we can. Okay, so Lamington sized squares. Okay, as far as sandwiches go, it really doesn't get much simpler than a ham and lettuce sandwich. My rolls are ready to be cut. We just have some ham, some cheese, a little bit of what was left of the carrot, and lettuce. I picked lettuce this morning and I've washed it, so I'll grab that. So some garden fresh lettuce. We're just gonna put these together, a little bit of mustard maybe, and yeah, so it doesn't get much simpler than this. They're nice and cool on the inside, which is what we want. Just a bit of butter. Some lettuce. Slice of ham each. Mustard. Ready to go. I'll wrap these up individually as well, but for now I'll just set them to the side. And if we cut our ham like that, it should fit. And there we have our week's worth of ham and salad rolls. So I will wrap these individually when I portion up the potato salad and the sushi, which I will probably do now because I think our lamingtons are going to be a little bit longer. I'm going to go check them. I popped them in the freezer once they were cut. I want them to be nice and cold. If you could make the lamington cake a day in advance, that would be perfect because then they would be frozen, which would be even better for when we do the icing. So lamingtons are an Australian, what do we call it? An iconic Australian treat. I don't think there's an Australian who didn't grow up having lamingtons, having the Lamington drive at school. They are just a white cake covered in a chocolate icing, and they have coconut all over them. So we'll get those done, and I'm going to check these apple and plum turnovers because they've been in the oven for a little while as well. I've pulled out 2 of the trays of the apple turnovers. As you can see, they're lovely and golden. Ow, quite hot. So I'm putting them on the cooling rack till they come to room temperature. Then I'll pop them in the fridge because they need to be nice and cold before we go adding our whipped cream and the icing sugar to those, and then they'll get packaged up. So they will be completely finished before they're wrapped. But yeah, for now, 1 tray is still in the oven. It just needs 5 more minutes. These are going to sit on the cooling rack here, and we're going to get started on our chocolate icing for the lamingtons. You want to get a couple of cups of icing sugar, added sugar, icing sugar, whatever you call it where you live. Okay, I'm going to put this back in here. You also want to boil some water, and to that we want to add 2 cups of icing sugar, 3 heaped tablespoons of cocoa powder. Okay, you want 1 teaspoon of butter, just a little one, and we're going to get some hot water in here. I am going to add just a little bit of vanilla because the vanilla enhances that cocoa flavour. So I'll add a teaspoon of vanilla as well. Oops, a bit more than a teaspoon. You want to add as much water as it takes to make a really thin icing. So we need to add more water to that. So about another tablespoon to begin with. And just gently mix it. You don't want it to splash everywhere. You don't need to use hand beaters or anything like that for this. You could use a whisk though if you prefer. If I were to dunk our cake pieces into this and have the icing stick to it but not be super thick, so not like really thick. It needs to be really quite thin. And what we will do, if you make this too much in advance, you will have to thin it down again, which we may have to do if our cake isn't cold enough to work with. We want it just slightly thinner than that. So another tablespoon of hot water, boiling water. Pouring cream thickness, okay? And be prepared, if you don't use it straight away, you will need to add a little bit more water to thin it down, because as it sits here, it will start to dry a little bit. Okay, so while we're waiting for that cake to finish cooling down, and we've got our icing ready for the lamingtons, we've got our apple and plum turnovers cooling over there, we have our ham and salad rolls made, our sushi is made, and our potato salad is made. Let's portion up this potato salad, let's portion up the sushi, and then they will be ready to go into the fridge. So I have a couple of options when it comes to containers. I like to buy these disposable Chinese containers. We do reuse them, we don't just throw them out. We reuse them until they break. So I just find them more economical than buying the more expensive brands that often get lost, especially in my family. We find them in the yard with mud pies being made. They often disappear at school, at work. So anyway, what I'm gonna do is use these smaller round ones, they're quite shallow, with our smaller round one for our potato salads anyway. Let's see how many we get. Okay, that little bit there, I'll eat that for lunch today. And there we have the potato salads done for the week. We've got 6 of those and we've got 6 rolls, so that's ideal. We will get our sushi cut. So I get each of these rolls cut into about 5 usually, and that then fits perfectly in one of these larger containers. Like that. And then we've got room here to put a little bit of pickled ginger or some wasabi, a little container of maybe some soy sauce, whatever we want to add, we've got room in this container to add it. So I'm going to do 5 to a container like that. You just want to make sure you've got a nice sharp knife and just eyeball, and there you have it. Tip it the ends. Don't make that the end that you present. Turn it over so that it's presented neatly like that. Just so that there's 2 serves here instead of another single one. Just like that. And these can all go back into the fridge, and we'll check on that cake once again. Okay, our cake is nice and cold. It's not frozen, but it is cold. Frozen would be better. I don't have time today to wait. If I'd made this last night, would have been perfect. So keep that in mind if you want to make this. So what I have is my cake, I have our chocolate icing, and I have just added a tiny bit of water to bring it back to that consistency that we had it before. And I have some desiccated coconut in a shallow dish, because what we're going to do is dump our cake into our icing, straight into our coconut, and then onto a tray to dry. So let's do this. Make sure you can see everything. Okay, I have got 2 forks here to assist, and the easiest way I find to do it is find a spot on your cake and put your fork into it. Okay, dip it into the icing. You want to coat it. Okay, even something like shallower that I could have dipped better. There we go. Let it drip off. Okay, and then straight into the coconut mixture. Coconut, I should say, it's not a mixture, it's just coconut. We want to get all sides covered well. There you have it, folks. Homemade lamingtons. Just going to set that there. Do another one. You do want to press the coconut in as well. You want it to soak up the moisture. My lamingtons are sitting here. They're done. I didn't have quite enough coconut to finish off all of them, so I have put 2 in the freezer in like just a Ziploc bag, no icing or anything, and I can just use that for anything I would need cake crumbs for. Or I can keep it until I want to make lamingtons again, and I've already got 2 ready to go. So, hot tip, make sure you've got plenty of coconut. Next up, we are going to finish off these apple and plum turnovers. What I've got is some whipped cream, okay, and I bought the wrong size piping bag, so this is actually an icing bag for like doing cookies and things like that. This is not going to be big enough to do these, but I'm gonna see how I go. I may end up just spooning cream into them, but I'm just filling my piping bag with at least a little bit of the cream. See how we go. Now I may even end up using a Ziploc bag as a piping bag. Okay. And along this long side, I'm just going to cut an opening and pry it open like that. And then what we do is we just pipe in a bit of cream, okay? And we're going to put that aside like that. And then what we're going to do is some icing sugar, okay, in a little sifter. And we're going to make them look just like they came out of a bakery. There you go. Okay, so I'm just going to work through those. And like I said, I may end up just spooning the cream in depending on how my little tiny baggie here goes. Okay. And I have found you need to give them a good generous coating of icing sugar if they're going to be sitting in the fridge for a couple of days. So I'm going to work through, get these finished up. Thank you for spending time with me today in the kitchen as we got our week's worth of lunches, grab and go lunches ready to go into the freezer. We have our potato salad, our apple and plum turnovers, lamingtons, sushi, and our ham and salad rolls. This will last us the week, our family, and we will just take what we want. I hope this has inspired you to make your own grab and go lunches. It's much cheaper than buying, and as you can see, it only took a couple of hours of work for me to get all of this together. This food is absolutely delicious. Thanks for hanging out, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.